Hey y'all, how you doing? So stuff has kind of been going about the same-ish, as you saw in the last video. Hopefully you guys have headed over to Papa Ben's Vlogs and looked up my search for a home, the Foo Bar, to kind of figure out what I'm talking about and maybe commented on it. Anyway, y'all came not to listen to me rant and rave and talk about my pains. You instead came to listen to Les Mis. We are on the last chapter of Book 1 of Fantine. I think I'm saying that right. It's confusing because Les Mis is the series, and then it's broken up into other series. So you've got a series called Fantine that we're in, and we're in the first book of the series Fantine. That's kind of a better way to say that. Anyway, let's go ahead here and get into the last chapter. This is chapter 16. A final word. As these details may, particularly in these times, and to use an expression now in fashion, give the Bishop of Denis certain pantheistic features, and lead to the belief, whether to his blame or to his praise, that he had one of those personal philosophies peculiar to our age, which sometimes spring up in solitary minds, gathering and growing until they replace religion. We insist that no one who knew Monseigneur Bienvenu would have felt justified in holding any such idea. What enlightened this man was the heart. His wisdom was formed from the light emanating from there. He had no systems, but many deeds. Abstruse speculations are full of pitfalls. Nothing indicates that he risked his mind in mysticisms. The apostle may be bold, but the bishop should be timid. He would probably have hesitated to delve too deeply into certain problems reserved, in some sense, for great and terrible minds. A sacred horror hovers near the approaches to mysticism. Somber openings lie gaping there. But something tells you, as you near the brink, do not enter. Woe to him who does. There are geniuses who, in the fathom's depths of abstraction and pure speculation, situated, so to speak, above all dogmas, present their ideas to God. Their prayer audaciously offers an argument. Their worship questions. This is direct religion, filled with anxiety and responsibility for those who would scale its walls. Human thought has no limit. At its risk and peril, it analyzes and dissects its own fascination. We could almost say that, by a sort of splendid reaction, it fascinates nature. The mysterious world surrounding as returns what it receives. It is likely that the contemplators are contemplated, however that may be. There are men on earth, if they are nothing more, who distinctly perceive the heights of the absolute in the horizon of their contemplation, and who have a terrible vision of the infinite mountain. Monseigneur Bienvenu was not one of those men. Monseigneur Bienvenu was not a genius. He would have dreaded those sublime heights from which even some very great men like Swedenborg and Pascal have slipped into insanity. Certainly, these tremendous reveries have their moral use, and by these arduous routes there is approach to ideal perfection. But for his part, he took the shortcut, the Gospels. He did not attempt to give his robe the folds of Elijah's mantle. He cast no ray of the future on the dark scroll of events. He did not seek to condense the glimmer of things into flame. He was nothing of the prophet and nothing of the magician. His humble soul loved and that was enough. That he raised his prayer to a superhuman aspiration is probable. But one can no more pray too much than love too much. And if it is hearsay to pray beyond the written form, St. Teresa and St. Jerome were heretics. He inclined toward the distressed and the repentant. The universe appeared to him a vast disease. He perceived fear everywhere. His osticulated suffering everywhere, and, without trying to solve the enigma, he endeavored to staunch the wound. The formidable spectacle of created things prompted a tenderness in him. He was always busy finding for himself and inspiring in others the best way of sympathizing and comforting. The whole world was, to this good and rare priest, a permanent subject of sadness seeking to be consoled. There are men who work for the extrication of gold. He worked for the extrication of pity. The misery of the universe was mine. Grief everywhere was only an occasion for good always. Love one another. He declared that to be complete. He desired nothing more, and it was his whole doctrine. One day, that man who considered himself a philosopher, the senator mentioned before, said to the bishop, "See now what the world shows us, each fighting against all others. The strongest man is the best man. Your love one another is stupidity." "Well," replied Monseigneur Bienvenu, without arguing, "if it is stupidity, the soul ought to shut itself up in it, like the pearl in the oyster." And he did shut himself up in it. He lived in it. He was absolutely satisfied with it, leaving the mysterious questions that attract and discourage, the unfathomable depths of abstraction, the precipice of metaphysics, all those profundities to the apostle converging upon God, to the atheist upon annihilation, destiny, good and evil, the war of being against being, the conscience of man, the thought-like dreams of the animal, the transformation of death, the reciprocation of existence contained in the tomb, the incomprehensible grafting of successive affections upon the enduring me, the essence, the substance, the nothing and the being, the soul, nature, liberty, necessity, difficult problems, sinister depths, toward which are drawn the gigantic archangels of the human race, fearful abyss that Lucretius, Mano, St. Paul, and Dante contemplate with that flaming eye that seems looking steadfastly into the infinite to kindle the very stars. Monseigneur Bienvenu was simply a man who accepted these mysteries without examining them, without stirring them up, and without troubling his own mind about them, and who had in his soul a deep respect for the mystery that surrounded them. Interesting place there to leave book 1 of Fantine in the Les Mis series. It is interesting how we have, through this first book here, drawn a picture of this bishop, this priest, this bishop, who has taken care of his people, his diocese, his area, and done this all through showing everyone love, showing everyone compassion. Is that all it takes? if we were a priest or a bishop or someone in that situation, could we show as much love, passion, respect as he did? Or would we be, as it says in here, some of those others? Interesting thoughts and contemplations. Anyway, stay tuned. We will, after the next book, be starting book 2 of Fantine in the Les Mis series. I want to thank you guys so very much, and you all have a wonderful and blessed day.